It ain't practice. It ain't preseason. It ain't minicamp. And it ain't OTAs. This is the NFL Week 1 weekly recaps, which we're going to do on this channel from some of my favorite games, some of the biggest games of the week on Sunday. And we're going to recap a couple videos that you will see today in this channel. So I want to talk about the first thing with the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. My question is, because I rewatched the game with my observations, took my notes, everything that I did, and I keep asking myself, because it got out of hand so quickly, was the shutout win by the Dallas Cowboys more indicative of the Dallas Cowboys' dominance on defense, or was it more indicative of the New York Giants shooting themselves in the foot, self-inflicted things? And I'm not referring to penalties. We're going to talk about some of the things which I'm talking about that they could have done themselves to help win this game. And really, with my notes, the first thing that I have is they were driving the football. I mean, you see guys like Darren Waller, Paris Campbell, Slayton's, all of the guys, Saquon Barkley's running the football. They're throwing it to him. And I looked at it early on and I said, okay, it looks like the New York Giants are going to drive down and get three at the worst possible scenario. At the worst case, you thought they get a field goal, and then you thought that if not a field goal, you go and score a touchdown, you set the tone, you send a message to the Dallas Cowboys. Understand, this is a rivalry game, one of the best, one of the most exciting. And then it doesn't go like that. You get a false start on third down, and then you get the bot snap. So now, not only have we gotten ourselves back from the initial field goal range, which you had for Graham Gano. Graham Gano, we're going to talk, he had a rough day. He really had a rough day from the kicker position, but you get further back in his range. And then not only have you gotten the false start, not only has John Michael Smith botched the snap interaction, you get the blocked field goal. And I do want to shout out Wanye Thomas for the Dallas Cowboys, number 30. He was making plays in the defensive game. He was making plays on special teams. That's how you insert yourself and reassert your name value to the Dallas Cowboys. There's another guy who I like on that team that I'm going to talk about. But when you have that, now you got the blocked field goal. We have to, if you're the New York Giants, you have to understand the operation has to work. From the snapper to the kicker, to the placeholder, to the blockers. Everything has to work in unison and be in sync, and it just wasn't. You have to. The thing you never want to do, if you're blocking a field goal, you never want a guy get inside, because that's the quickest way to the kicker. If you're coming inside and you're coming to block a kick, there's nobody that can really throw you off of your path if you're coming off of the edge. And that's why they tell those guys, if you're the wing or the furthest guy to the outside at the tackle position, you have to kick with that inside foot, because you want to block down. And then if a guy gets outside of you, his time to get to the kicker is extremely slower from when he's coming from the inside. If a guy comes off the edge and we got a guy shooting down inside the gap, it's not going to work the same. So you really want that guy, if he comes off, and we see it all the time, these guys come off the edge and it looks like they can get the block. They just can't make it there in time. So that's the first thing. And that's practice. That's typical day one install on special teams. So I don't know how that happened. But then, those guys, and also Wanye Thomas, talking about him again, blocks the field goal, and then they go down, they score that. Now it's 6-0. Dallas Cowboys, please get a kicker. Please. I mean, he made some kicks after this one, but how do you miss the first extra point after a big time play like that? And then again, now you go 3 and out for the New York Giants, and then the Dallas Cowboys get the football back. CeeDee Lamb making some big-time plays. They had the play where it's really Adoree Jackson was on him, and then you send those two guys inside. It's working like a screen, and it's really a pick, but it's not offensive pass interference. I know some people watching the game may have thought that, but if you just run the route and get in the guy's way, Kansas City Chiefs, every team does it a lot. You just really run the routes and then get a guy to slide off. It's a rub route. You send him off. CeeDee Lamb was wide open on the sideline. That really got that drive going. Tony Pollard running the football, but they got a field goal out of that one. The New York Giants, they bent it, but they didn't break right there. And then you get the football back. You're doing some pretty solid things, and then Saquon Barkley. I don't know if I want to really harp on Saquon Barkley. Now, you have to protect the ball at all costs, but with this one happening, as soon as he caught the ball and tried to tuck it, Trayvon Diggs came right at him, and then you got DaRon Bland getting the interception with the pick six. That's a very tough break. I mean, you truly have to look at that and then say, now, I mean, you're down 16-0. It's still the first quarter. It's still the first quarter. So I thought that even with this all happening, John Michael Smith, getting beat on some pass rush reps, different things that we saw with the receiving core, Dallas Cowboys having great coverage in the back end, Micah Parsons getting the big time sack on Daniel Jones where he did the stunt in the loop. I still thought the Giants had a chance. I still said, okay, I'm watching this. Yes, it's 16-0. And it's crazy. I had more faith than even some Giants fans. People saw this and they saw the 16-0 and they said, this is just like what we saw last year. This is just the team that's going to be good, going to win some games, but can't be good enough to make it to the big dance. And I still don't have those thoughts, even after the 40-0 loss. But the Dallas Cowboys, though, you get the big time pass interference on Trey Hawkins with Brandon Cooks down the football field. Now you're really in a tough situation. They go down to get another field goal. Now it's 19-0. And then I thought that it was funny to me because seeing how things were going at that point and seeing how the pass protection, Evan Neal, I have some real questions because it's not year one for Evan Neal. And you want to see the development. Buddy Johnson, the offensive line coach for the New York Giants, what is going on? Andrew Thomas, I mean, he's an all-pro. We know what he is at the left tackle position. But some of these other guys, even John Michael Schmitz, I mean, we could say that in Minnesota, we saw some better reps than what we saw last night from John Michael Schmitz. So you wonder and question where is the leak in the coaching room and all the things that happened. But really for the Dallas Cowboys, I thought that a lot of things in which they did hinged on defense to me. You got Trayvon Diggs flying around. You got Stephon Gilmore making plays. Malik Hooker almost getting a pick. All of those guys flying around. DeMarcus Lawrence, they had Bellinger trying to block him on one player, I remember. Then he flew in there. You had Ziggy flying in there. Micah Parsons is what he is. So all the guys, I mean, Leighton Vander Esch, I think he's solid at this point. He's really inconsistent, but I do think he's solid at times. Damone Clark is the guy with the higher upside for the Dallas Cowboys, so you really want to look at him and say, okay, can he develop and be the guy that leads this room for the linebacker core? But like I said, it wasn't really to me that Dak Prescott was blowing the roof off the hinges. It wasn't like he was just diming everybody up and just throwing the football down the field 50 yards to Hendershot or Jake Ferguson or Brandon Cooks. It wasn't that type of game. It was defense. Tony Pollard was getting some carries. Dowdle, shout out Dowdle. We didn't get to see Deuce Vaughn, really, I don't think at all in the game, but we saw Dowdle backing up Tony Pollard. He got some really good carries. Pretty physical back from what I saw from him. So then Brandon Cooks got some plays. Like I said, Tony Pollard, you go down. Now it's 26-0. And it really got out of hand at this point. So I say that everything that I saw from the New York Giants, it was indicative of shooting themselves in the foot. I do think that they are still a good team, but the Dallas Cowboys, because when I talked about the Dallas Cowboys and I said that defense will be first down proof, listen, if you haven't watched that film breakdown, I strongly urge it. It's week one, and it's a pretty dated breakdown because it was last year within really the offseason that I talked about this with the film breakdown. But I'm telling you, if you check out that video, you will see everything that you saw last night because I talked about it. You got a Mozzie Smith, a Jonathan Hankins. You got Ziggy. All of these guys on the inside. Dorrance Armstrong. DeMarcus Lawrence can kick down inside. You have the linebackers. You have the secondary. Jerron Kearse. Marquise Bell out of Florida A&M. I talked about him because these guys, they're so versatile. And Dan Quinn, it's not the typical what we saw with the cover 3 scheme in the Legion of Boom. It's more so to a Tampa 2, but he's getting very aggressive. This is a man coverage team when we talk about the Dallas Cowboys because they just think they're better than you. And they're going to send Micah Parsons. They're going to send DeMarcus Lawrence. They may blitz a linebacker here or there, but they just cover on the back end and play football. And then at the linebacker positions, you got these dime backers. You got a Jerron Kearse who can play the dime backer. You got a Marquise Bell who's a versatile guy, can play the dime backer. It's tough. It's really, really tough. Andrew Thomas, he went down with the injury. Evan Neal, he was struggling. Really, we saw Matt Pert in the game. So it wasn't fully, once it got about 30-0, it was really over from that point. Teams were milking the clock. Daniel Jones was still out there gunning, playing with his guys. But I say that you gotta not have so much of the self-inflicted things if you want to win a game like this. I still think it was potentially a winnable game, but you do all these things and you get down. Tony Pollard's a great runner of the football. The Dallas Cowboys, they still have an offensive line that will pound you, that is physical, that can run the clock down. And Dak Prescott, I don't think he was perfect, but I think he made the throws that needed to be made. I saw him miss, I believe he missed Jake Ferguson in the end zone. I saw him miss CD in the end zone. So some things still have to be cleaned up for Dak. I don't think it was really the turnover-worthy type game, which we usually see. We saw last season, led the league in interceptions, didn't play every game. That wasn't a Dak I saw. But I saw a Dak that was kind of inconsistent, inaccurate in some really situations in which you want to say, let's get this touchdown right here. Let's get this third down right here. And then you had some drops from some other guys for the Dallas Cowboys. But I look at a game and I say, it wasn't, you can't take everything away from this game that really happened because it got so out of hand. So if you're really the New York Giants, you have to come out of this week and say, okay, we don't want to really flush it, But we do want to say next week, we want to look at some of the things we did bad in film. John Michael Smith really, Evan Neal really cleaned some of those things up. Hopefully Andrew Thomas gets back healthy. And then if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you look at it and say, we're going to keep playing physical. We're going to keep playing fast. And we're not going to be too exotic with Dan Quinn and the scheme and all these guys. Although we have versatile players, we're not doing that. We're manning you up. We're sending our pass rush because we have the talent. And that's why I talk about with the San Francisco 49ers. We saw what they did to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's indicative of the talent. Sometimes when we see teams and Bill Belichick and all these guys, when they have the talent, that's when you see the elite defenses. But even when they don't have the talent, a guy like Bill Belichick, he can shift out of that and run different zone things. He can run different man coverages because he's that mind guy. He's the guy that has the mind in the X's and O's and the schemes. He doesn't have to have the best personnel all of the time. But talking about this game, I think that it was a little bit of both. I do think the Dallas Cowboys defense is dominant, and I also think that the New York Giants shot themselves in the foot. What do you guys think down below in the comments? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more weekly recaps, film breakdowns, and analysis. That's going to do it for today's show, though, and now we out.